this convention, and I also thank God that you gave me an opportunity to pour my heart out to Ugandans, to welcome our foreign friends who are coming to our country to help us exploit the resource we could not do by ourselves. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Eli Karuhanga. The 2 minutes was meant to be a secret. But thank you so much for the passionate speech and the call to action. Next speaker who's going to close off the speeches session is going to be from Stanbic. Mr. Paul Muganwa is the head of corporate investment banking at Stanbic Bank Uganda. Previously, he was heading the investment banking section and has banking experience for the past 14 years. He has a wealth of experience in advisory, mergers and acquisition, debt, project financing, and has been very vital in the oil and gas positioning for the bank, Stanbic Bank, as a thought leader in the market. Paul, you're welcome. He'll be speaking to us on facilitating cross-sector linkages for the oil and gas industry.
Chairman of PSFU, project sponsors, the regulator, the organizers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's always a challenge following a very passionate speaker like Honorable Karuhanga, who has the ability to weave Spider-Man into a speech about national content. It's a special skill. So let me manage expectations. My contribution will not be as insightful or with as much charisma. And consequently, I'll be very brief. I'd like to start off by doing something that has been done by all the speakers. And I think it's appropriate that we continue to recognize and acknowledge what the Chamber has done for us. Previous speakers have talked about today as a conference, and what I would like to recognize is everything else that the Chamber does, especially in lobbying and coordinating and ensuring that this sector moves forward. There is provision of information in a systematic manner, and it's done in a very, very, very professional way. It really sets the standard for forums of this nature in the country. So a big thank you to the Chamber. I think part of the Chamber's success is, one, it always gets the right people in a room to have this type of dialogue. But number two, it keeps a finger on the pulse on what is topical, what we need to engage on, what we need to deliberate on. And the topic today, maximizing national content and value retention, is one that is not new. It's perennial in nature. We in Stanbic have been grappling this question for the last 10 years. And it's important that the effort continues because it speaks to the sustainability of this project, number one. And more importantly, if we consider the timing, where we are today, post-FID, the rubber is hitting the road. And now is when we have to put all efforts together to close the information gap and ensure that we maximize Uganda's participation. So, closing the information gap is an interesting challenge. Historically, I've been in quite a number of different forums where the dialogue has focused on local spend, as an anchor, as a way, a barometer to measure the potential benefit from a national content perspective. Patrick made mention to 30%. The minister referred to precedence, 28%. of the total project spend being local. I've had other perspectives, as low as 15%. So the reality is we'll land somewhere in between that very wide spectrum. And where we land is going to be a function, obviously, of the extent to which local companies participate actively. So there's a recognition that there are a couple of moving parts there. Local content participation is a function of readiness. Readiness has many permutations, but the one that I think we're trying to solve today is information. And if you allow me, I'll spend the next 2 or 3 minutes just speaking about how we think and look at information. The industry, specifically the sponsors, and I believe the regulator, have done a fantastic job in pointing out the pockets of opportunities. And those data points are very clear, especially for the opportunities that are directly related to the sector. They become a little bit murky as you consider the indirect impact and the induced impact. And so, how do you go about trying to create some color and trying to create a credible basis on which to give direction? The first for us, obviously, as a bank, is we look at macroeconomic variables and socioeconomic variables. We've had some very recent debates on what we think the impact of oil and gas is going to be. I'll share a view. These are consensus views. It's not just Stanbic, but really it's a couple of respectable institutions globally. One, GDP growth. So currently, Uganda last year grew between 3 and 3.5%. I think the official statistics are 3.5%. We expect that the long-term GDP growth will be about 7%, specifically 7.1%. And oil and gas contribution to this particular variable is between 1 and 1.25%. And that's the uptick that oil and gas will have on GDP growth. But what's more informative is really the components of that GDP growth and where we see oil and gas having a meaningful influence or impact. So one is on household and consumer spending. That's expected to grow at a long-term average of 6% in real terms. The second, and probably more relevant to this conversation, is capital formation, our investment in capital goods that ultimately continue to generate prospects for the country. That's expected to be 7%. Lastly, and the most significant impact on GDP, is our exports, which are expected to grow, I stress on a long-term basis, at 9%. So, relatively balanced growth, highly unlikely that Uganda will suffer the challenge of the Dutch disease, and consequently, from the macroeconomic expectations, I think we can be confident that there will be a very positive and significant impact on this country, and we can position for it. Now, if we take it a level below kind of macroeconomic indicators and think about the industries that are going to be impacted, the information asymmetry that has been highlighted is different. It's not the same for all industries. I think logistics and transport, there's quite a bit of clarity on how the opportunity is going to evolve. Building materials, there's quite a bit of clarity, and we've seen a significant amount of investment in preparation for that. Where we see a little bit of a gap is agriculture and real estate. And to that end, in partnership with the PAU, we've embarked on commissioning a series of studies, and these studies are designed to close that information gap, to disaggregate these sectors and identify the impact along the value chains. That work is in its earnest, and it is credible because it's sponsored by the PAU. And it will be made available and consequently, hopefully, help in closing that information gap. We're doing the same through a sister company within the Stanbic Bank Holdings ecosystem, Stanbic Bank's properties, and they've been tasked with identifying the supply and demand factors for real estate what the gap is, how to solve for that gap, land, buildings, costing, etc. And these are two of many. We intend to continue investing as a financial institution, as the biggest bank in the country, in closing that information gap. Lastly, you solve the information gap at industry level, but you need to think about how you equip local businesses to meaningfully participate in the opportunity. And our response to that has been to set up an incubator that is run by Mr. Tony Otoa. The focus has been quite broad, focusing on helping businesses in different sectors address governance, financial management. More recently, there's a bit more bespoke focus, specifically for participants in oil and gas. And the pillars that we are supporting these companies with is understanding the contracting environment, preparing for bids, joint ventures, and managing the contracts through their life. So, as a financial institution, we shall continue to invest in the provision of information. It helps not only potential participants in the industry, but it also helps us figure out how to support you, how to guide, direct, and be a meaningful partner to this momentous opportunity for the country. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have great deliberations.
Thank you, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, a very big round of applause to all our speakers that gave speeches in the first session. We are going to move to the second session, but before I take you to the second session, I would like to take us to the gallery where we have a number of our exhibitors that are attending this conference.
Thank you very much, Pam, and everybody down at the Victoria Hall. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities. Like you heard, I am here at the gallery session in the auditorium, the main area, and behind me is our main sponsor, Stanbic Holdings. And in this particular area, we have the main sponsor and the other anchor sponsors. So I have UNOC to my left, CNOC to my right, in front of me Total Energies and the ECOP team, and of course Equity Bank. Now, in all the halls that are available in the hotel, so whether it's the Addis Hall, the Katonga, the Nile, the Choga, and of course this main lobby, we have over 40 exhibitors who are in one way or the other playing within the oil and gas sector, trying to get into the oil and gas sector. And like all our speakers have spoken, or at least alluded to, 30% of everything we're trying to do is try to remain that local content stays here. And our theme is very clear: maximizing national content and value retention. Now, all these people in all these rooms, in one way or the other, are trying to do exactly that. So, after this session, when you're done, there will be a tea break. My request to each and every one of you, come. I'm assuming you're, a couple of guys who can multitask, so you can walk and chew gum. As you chew and enjoy the, the refreshments, take a walk, have a look at all the other players, see what it is they are doing, and if you can, have conversations, because they have people manning all these stores that will answer all your questions. I'll see you guys after this session. Pamela?
This session is looking at the updates post the FID, and we have an able team represented by different members from Total Energies, CNOC, UNOC, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Company, and the Petroleum Authority. It's not my job to introduce them, so I'm going to invite Mr. Patrick Mwehere, who has been introduced to us, the chairman of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, as well as the regional group MD and CEO for Standard Bank Group, to come and introduce the team, who will then speak to us on what's happening in the sector so far, the contracts that have been awarded, the national content achievements, and so on. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much. We've got a series of presentations. The first one's going to come from Mr. Philippe Groye, who is a seasoned and highly skilled oil and gas professional with over 30 years of experience within Total Energies. He's currently the GM of Total Energies EP Uganda and the country chair of Total Energies in Uganda. His assignment in Uganda began September 1, 2021, with the responsibility to bring Lake Albert developments to first oil. Prior to this assignment to Uganda, Philippe was the managing director of Total Energies Denmark, a large operating affiliate in the North Sea with an ongoing 3 billion capex development of the Tyra field. Prior to that, between December 2017 and 2020, he was the managing director of Total Energies in Bolivia and later executive vice president, Total Energies Indonesia. So he brings a wealth of experience, and we're very, very happy. And please join me in welcoming Philippe to the stage. Thank you.
So I try to explain to you where are we in the Tilenga project and what is going to happen in the months to come. I don't know. You can see something? No. I will need some help to project. I have a few supporting documents, but I don't know if you can maybe do something about it. Okay. Okay, let's start with the beginning. So, the first, I will speak about what we call enabling infrastructure. Enabling infrastructure is about the civil works that have to be done before we can really start any construction activity. It's a big job that we started, I would say, last quarter 2021. And this works is divided into different packages. What we call package number 1, which is a preparation of the industrial area. And now we are reaching 50% completion. And we already handed over some part of the area to McDermott to start its own activity as a main PCC contractor for the industrial area. And we have also partially handed over to Vallourec to start bringing, or very soon, we'll start to see some tubulars coming. The package number 2 is about the roads, because we have a number of roads to build to access to what we call the well pads. There will be 31 well pads supporting all the 430 wells to be drilled. And the road access is an important part of it, because without the road, we cannot start the construction of the well pad. I don't know, no signal. Okay, it's coming back. The third package is about an upgrade of the Bugungu airstrip, where the contractor has been already selected and the contract has been awarded and the work is going to start. It's going to take something like 12 to 13 months to upgrade this airstrip, and we plan to start operating it, I would say, by middle of 23. And the last package, of course, is a very important one, is the well pad civil work preparation. We have, I will show you 3 drilling rigs coming by the end of the year. And we need to make sure this rig have somewhere to go. And we need the well paths to be ready. And that's the focus of this first package. The work will start this month, April, and with the main contractor being Mota Engil. What's happening on the drilling and wells activity, which is a big part of the project? And so all the main contracts have been awarded, and you see a number of names appearing here with Schlumberger, ZPEB, Kossel, Envaroser, Valorec, Uganda, Exlog. And these contractors are starting to mobilize. You have the picture on the right side of the 3 rigs. And the 3 rigs are being currently built in China. They are ahead of schedule. And they will be ready. The first one, I mean, probably the 3 of them will be in country before end of the year. And we will start drilling with the first one early November. On the 2 other pictures, you can see that you start to see some building being erected in the industrial area. And this is a construction camp. Why? Because before we can start any construction activity, we need to accommodate the workers. And it's a small city that you will see emerging, and a city of 4,000 people capacity. And the first part will be delivered by end of June with a capacity of 1,000 people, ready to operate with 1,000 people. So what is nice is you go there, and it's no longer only civil works, I mean, that you can see, but now you see really construction activity. So here I would say, the list of some contractors, the main contractors. If I want to show you the list of all the contractors, it will take we have more hundreds of contractors working for us, and it's going to be long and cumbersome. So here I just put the main one currently mobilized on the construction activity. And so there will be another session, I will say, to go deeper in the detail. As far as we are concerned, all the main contracts have been awarded, direct contract. I think we'll have only one ongoing that will be submitted to the regulator soon. Well, the last information I want to share with you is because it's a key topic of this session, is about national content performance, and national content follow-up. And we try to quantify a bit what we think we will deliver. And we try to put some numbers in order to be able to measure. And I'm very conscious that there is need to harmonize that approach between the different operators under, I would say the coverage of the regulator, in order to make sure we speak about the same thing altogether. But we are talking about close to 8,000 people directly employed in this construction activity on Tilenga only. I'm talking about Tilenga only. Huh? After you think we need to add Kingfisher, we need to add Kabbalah, we need to add the refinery, we need to add the ECOP to see the big numbers coming. But for Tilenga, we'll spend more than 1 million man-hours of training, overall training, which is massive. And we are talking about more than $700 million, I would say, local goods and services directly in country being purchased. And we are talking about a lot of initiative about technology transfer. And so this is the first attempt really to quantify all this national content and in-country value. I'm very conscious that we need to continue working on it, but be sure that all this is at the center of our daily concern. And I can see Rosette here. Rosette is, of course, our national content lead, and she's reminding us every day that we need to continue and pushing hard and to deliver what is expecting from this project in terms of in-country value. So that's the message. So the industrial area, I have a few pictures that I would like to show you about a lot of activity on land acquisition and resettlement ongoing with the well pad, the land that we need access to to build the well pad. You can see the enabling infrastructure activity. We have a lot of training ongoing, of course. We have some agricultural project ongoing. And of course, carbon footprint is also at the heart of this of the project, carbon footprint reduction. And we have submitted to regulator and to ministry a project to extract LPG from the produced gas, which is another project in the project. We think that it will valorize in a better way, I would say, all the produced gas and help Uganda to fight deforestation by reducing charcoal use. I will show you an impressive picture. This is the industrial area. Is quite massive. Is 2 kilometers by 1.5 kilometers, and you have to imagine that all of this will be covered by infrastructure, by equipment and infrastructure. It's difficult to imagine it. I've been just in the center of this area, walking at the center, and when you are in the center and you look in all directions, you think you are in the middle of a desert. You don't even see the boundaries. So it's quite impressive. And trust me, this will be covered with equipment and infrastructure that is coming, and you will see very soon, I would say, the first equipment coming. So that's what I wanted to share today, and it's try to share with you how massive is the project, and massive is a challenge, a drilling challenge, the construction challenge, but that we are moving, and we are moving in the right direction. We have a lot of Ugandan partners having already joined, and now, I mean, a lot more will join as a subcontractor of our main contractors, and that's what is going to happen in the months to come. Thank you very much, and I will hand over to my next colleague.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you for that transparent presentation. The next is going to come from Mr. Ma Peksin, who is representing Mr. Chen Georgeba. He's worked for 26 years for PetroChina and CNOOC with worldwide knowledge of oil and gas with respect to technical solutions and management. Mr. Ma organized several EPC projects, such as the CPF, offshore tank farms, and long-distance transportation pipelines for oil and gas. Between 2005 and 2008, Mr. Ma worked in Damascus, Syria, as manager of surface facilities. Between 2008 and 2019, he acted as manager of CNOOC Petroleum Limited in the Adheb oil field and general manager of JV in the Misan oil field in Iraq, with peak production of up to 300,000 barrels per day. Between 2019 and 2021, more than 2 years of acting as general manager of production and surface facility of coal-bed methane in China. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ma to give us his remarks as update on Kingfisher. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to participate in the 8th National Oil and Gas Convention. Thanks all parties to well organize this convention and efforts. Now, I represent CNOC to share presentation with you all valued guests. The first page, I want to briefly introduce the geology and geophysical. For some background, our project is situated in the northwest of Uganda, along the eastern bank of Albert Lake, neighboring with our partner Dodar in the north. The Kingfisher is in size. EA2S and Kingfisher development area belongs to CNOC as operator. E1 and E2 North, Dodar as the operator. Altogether, we are partners. This page just to introduce the general plot plan of our surface facilities. Surface facilities mainly include some CPF, 4 well pads, from the north to south along lake. There are 4 well pads. Water intake station, supply base, permanent camper, safety check station, temporary camper, and feed line about 47.6 kilometers. Infield road infrastructure. Here, I just show some 3D bird view. For example, safety check station, CPF, supply base, water intake station, well pads, one of them, permanent camper. This page, I want to introduce our production profile from year 1 to year 25. The plateau production is 40,000 barrels per day. Totally, we have 31 wells, 20 for oil producer, and 11 for water injection. The plateau duration will last 5 years. After that, it will decline gradually. The recovered oil totally estimated is about 186 million barrels. So accordingly, we plan to build up our surface facilities. The oil processing capacity is about 40,000 barrels per day, and the gas processing capacity is about 9.1 million standard cubic feet per day, and LPG 20,000 metric ton annually. Water injection is about 124,500 barrel water per day. This page I want to share with you our project milestone. February 1st this year, Uganda government announced the FID. This year, February 11, Kingfisher oil field construction kicked off, especially from starting of surface constructions. End of 2024, we try to reach the first oil hand with our partner Dodan. 2025 mid, we will offload the first ship oil. Until now, we have signed for the major projects for the surface. The PC1, our contract is Excel, and Kanga partners for construction quality supervision. The contract have been signed. Available opportunities, supply of construction materials and equipment, subcontracting of sections of the work, for example, conductor pipe installation. Okay. Construction quality supervision services. The second, EPC2. Contract is CSE CC. Inspect Africa Limited and Dutch Chemical Corporation Limited for construction quality supervision. Contract signed. Available opportunities, supply of the construction materials and equipment, subcontracting for sections of the work, for example, civil works, construction quality supervision service. The third one is the EPC3. The contract is the COEC and the CPCC, the joint venture. Opportunities, supply of the construction materials and equipment, subcontracting for sections of the work, for example, civil works. Last one, EPC4. Contract DOCG. Opportunities, supply of the construction materials and equipment, subcontracting for sections of the work, civil works. The following is about the drilling and the completion projects. As I mentioned, we are having total 31 wells, 28 in main block, including 4 recompletion wells, 3 in north block, 4 well pads, 20 producer, and 11 injection wells. The milestone for drilling and completion, there are many stages, such as drilling services, workover, staff mobilization, and drilling engineering and spudding. The main milestone as following. Rig contract was awarded on February 2nd, 2022. First batch of oil, casing and tubing will reach warehouse end of October. We plan to spud in December 15 to 25. Now, I introduce our annual procurement plans. The left column is about the tending quantities annually. The right column is about the budget. Compared with the last 3 years, CNOOC continued to increase investment from $36.8 million to $132 million, which are not included the 4 EPC projects and integrated drilling service, whose amount was exceeded $800 million, and CNOOC will continue to develop with Uganda. This page, I just want to the main points about the procurement processes. Procurement method, according to the law of Uganda, if the budget is over $400,000, we often adopt the public bidding. Below that, we adopt a selective bidding. The following is the flow chart. It's mainly about the annual procurement plan, procurement requisition, expression of interest, and recommended request for proposal, and the tendering evaluation process, including the technical, commercial, and price. Then we finish the bid evaluation report and recommend to awarding. Next is letter of awarding. Then sign contract and archiving. This is the main process. Just take the public bidding as example. Some main points I want to share with you. For EOI, the legal and regulatory requirements, including NSD registration. For any contract, if you have a desire to participate in the bidding, do not forget register in advance. Relevant experiences are very important to judge the company's capabilities, financial capability, and commitment to national content requirements in line with regulations. Only vendors that have expressed willingness and have the above minimum requirements are invited for the pre-qualification stage. Second point is about pre-qualification. The only pre-qualification shortlisted vendors are invited. The aspects of winning proposal, they are for technically, we pay more attention about the health, safety, and environment, the past experience, project schedule, QHZ certificates. For unpriced commercial, national content plan, financial status, tax clearance, legal and regulatory, permits and license, bribery and corruption, and also pricing. This page is very important. I just share with you. Key tendering shortfalls to avoid. Do not submit generic tender responses. Some should be detailed. Match responses to questions asked. separate proposals, especially price from unpriced commercial proposal. Complete the bid proposal and submit on time. Provide supporting documentation, proof where necessary. Where it is not clear, do not assume. Seek chances for clarification. Confidentiality must be observed at all times. Lowering during the tender process is prohibited and destructive to yourself. Alternative proposals, deviations are welcomed, provided they don't change the intent of scope of work. Through our efforts and with partners' support, also from PU and UNOC, during the whole project lifespan, we estimate 2,716 Ugandas will be employed. Training of the local workforce, knowledge transfer initiatives, train the trainer program, Uganda companies awarded, annual best student performers. For locally purchased percentage, regarding the total performance regard to the contract award for the year 2021. The total gross procurement expenditure by SINOC Uganda is $36 million above, including the estimated value of national content in all contracts awarded is above 32 million, equivalent to 91%. The value awarded to international contracts is about 3 million above, equivalent to 9%. That means, SINOC have endeavored to maximize local contents. This year, as our current estimation, the local content will reach 35% of the contract value, at least. So this is my presentation. Our whole project will invest about $5 billion during the lifespan of the Kingfisher. CNOOC, as an international company, will not only endeavor to create more job positions, but also maximize local content as much as possible so as to create win-win situation. Thanks for your listening. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear from UNOC. Proskovia Nabanja is not here, but we're going to be hearing from Dr. Michael Mugerwa, who is the General Manager for Uganda Refinery Holding Company. Michael is a chemical engineer with over 32 years of professional, technical, and management experience in the oil and gas space. His areas of expertise include process engineering, project management, project controls, risk management, contracts, safety, oil refinery technologies, fuel cell systems, and geothermal power plants. Michael holds a BSc, MSc, and PhD degrees in chemical engineering from the University of Manchester in the UK. His postgraduate research focused on the characterization and modeling of pore structures in oil-bearing sandstones and petrochemical catalysts. In the recent past, he was based in Europe and North America and worked for the global engineering and procurement construction EPC contractor Technip and Jacobs Engineering. Michael is a chartered engineer in the UK and also a fellow of the Institution of Chemical Engineers. Please join me in welcoming Michael. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for a very illustrious introduction. Let's see if I can get the presentation to work. So I'm here representing our CEO, Proskovia Nabanja. Unfortunately, she could not make it today because she had to go before Parliamentary Committee, Natural Resources Committee. So she sends her apologies to the conference. All protocol observed. Given the time constraints, I will jump into our presentation. First, a quick overview of the sector governance structure. You heard from the minister earlier on, and she was explaining how the Ministries of Energy and Mineral Development is responsible for policy, investor promotion, and licensing. UNOC's role is representing the state's interests in commercial and business interests in the oil and gas sector. We have with us the ED of Petroleum Authority of Uganda, who are responsible for regulation. And then finally, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is responsible for the fiscal regime. UNOC's mandate is quite broad. Here we're summarizing just a couple of key aspects under the Petroleum Act, which is representing the state's commercial interests and also developing in-depth expertise in the oil and gas sector. There are quite a number of other mandates, but these are the ones that we choose to share today. We were established incorporated in June 2015 as under the Companies Act as a private limited company. We are wholly owned by GOU, with two shareholders, 51% being the Office of the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development and 49% being the Office of the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We have two subsidiaries. I'm the accounting officer of the Uganda Refinery Holding Company Limited, responsible for the refinery and petrochemical related businesses. And then we also have the National Pipeline Company, that's responsible for the pipeline, storage, and downstream ventures of UNOC. So now moving to our value chain in terms of the scope of UNOC's activities. In the upstream, as you're aware, we are managing state participation. We've talked earlier about the 15% participation that government of Uganda has in the upstream, and that's what the joint venture represents together with our partners Total Energies and CNOOC. We also were launching new ventures You heard about the participation in the second licensing round and other activities relating to licensing additional upstream blocks. So we're active there. And once we start producing crude oil in 2025, UNOC will be handling crude oil trading on behalf of the government. In the midstream, we're focusing on refining. Of course, there's a crude pipeline, which is ECOP, and my colleague, JB Habumugisha, will be talking about that later. And I will be talking specifically in this presentation about the refinery and the Kabbalah Industrial Park, which is really our midstream interests as UNOC. And in the downstream, we also have ownership. We're managing the Ginger Storage Terminal. We are in the process of designing the Kampala Storage Terminal, which is located in Impigi district. And we are also already partaking in bulk trading. So really, we are working across the entire petroleum value chain, and our business model is working in joint venture to assure service delivery. Now, jumping into the meat of our presentation on the refinery, the project comprises 4 major project areas. We have the Mbegu water intake station and corresponding water pipelines for the abstraction and transmission of water from Lake Albert. It's about 10 kilometers distant from the refinery site itself, which will be located in Kabale, in Hoima district. Then we have a 211-kilometer multi-products pipeline for evacuation of refined products from the refinery to the storage terminal in Impigi. That will probably take about 70% of the total production of the refinery to supply central, western, and eastern regions of Uganda. The refinery will produce roughly 8 million liters a day of white products. And to put that into perspective, currently Uganda imports about 6 million liters of white products daily. We also have the Impigi remote refinery terminal, which is the same as the Kampala storage terminal that I talked about earlier. Some key facts about the project: 60,000 barrel per day capacity, which will correspond to Uganda's needs for petroleum products in about 2030, so about 8 years from now. Then the design configuration is what's known as the residue fluid catalytic cracker. So we'll be producing a significant amount of petrol or gasoline in refinery speak, but also to produce enough, more than enough gasoline to meet Uganda's needs, and about 70% of Uganda's diesel needs. The developers are of course, the UNOC through the subsidiary that I'm accounting officer for, the Uganda Refinery Holding Company, on behalf of Government of Uganda. But we also have a joint venture development with the Albertine Graben Refinery Consortium, who comprise Yatra Africa, Saipem, Baker Hughes, and Lionworks Capital. And the project is structured as a limited recourse project finance project, which finance, develop, construct, and operate. I talked a little bit about the refinery products. We'll be producing Euro 5 standard gasoline and diesel. We'll produce enough jet fuel to meet Entebbe Airport's needs. And we'll produce about 650 tons a day of LPG, which is 20 times what Uganda currently uses. So it'll be an important part of getting Uganda, let's say, more green in how we utilize our energy and move people away from charcoal and firewood to LPG. We also produce a significant quantity of low sulfur fuel oil in the order of about 500 metric tons a day. The plan for that fuel oil is to upgrade it to nitrogen-based fertilizers. The estimated cost of the project is in the region of $4 billion. we're operating on the basis of a debt-to-equity ratio of 70-30, and UNOC's equity will be in the order of about $500 million US dollars. The journey of the project, we, let's see, where are we now? I have to change the slides. Our initial studies were undertaken in 2011 that confirmed the viability, identified the location as well as the size of the refinery project. Ministry of Energy handled a project investor promotion exercise that essentially led to where we are today in terms of working with the Alberta and Graben Refinery Consortium, and that due diligence exercise was completed in 2017. In 2018, we signed a project framework agreement for development of the refinery between GOU and AGRC. We completed the FEL2, which is really the final refinery configuration studies, in 2019, and these were approved by the Cabinet. This FEED study was completed in September 2021. So really we have a very complete design at this time. The front engineering design is complete, providing a very good basis for the cost estimate for the project, although we are currently subjecting it to a fair amount of value engineering to improve the, or let's say reduce the projected capital for the project. The ESIA study is at 97% complete. We're expecting it to be issued as a draft at the end of April. We are currently in the process of drafting and negotiating key project agreements, the crude supply agreement with the joint venture partners, the shareholders agreement and the implementation agreement, along with additional other agreements. We're expecting to obtain refinery FID by the end of March 2023, and considering a 4-year engineering procurement, detailed engineering procurement construction period, we expect that the refinery will be commissioned by mid-2027. The refinery has very significant macroeconomic benefits for Uganda. We worked with Stanbic Bank. As you know, we worked with Stanbic Bank to undertake a macroeconomic study on the impact of the refinery on our economy. This study was reviewed with Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, with the National Planning Authority, with the Bank of Uganda, and we've concluded that it will it'll add $3.3 billion a year to Uganda's national GDP. The national capital formation, as Paul indicated earlier from Stanbic Bank, will be quite significant, $8.2 billion. 32,000 job opportunities, the majority of those will be during construction, and these are the direct job opportunities that we see, as well as induced and indirect. Improved balance of payments by about $600 million US dollars per year. Net fiscal impact of about $590 million US dollars per year. And we're looking at a very profitable project in the region of about 16% IRR, simply based on the fact that we are sitting on top of the crude oil and we have very significant import costs for petroleum products. So those are the margins that the relatively small refinery accrues are relating to the crude oil cost at the end, the input as an input to the refinery, as well as the impact on the cost of the imported petroleum products. So that's where we get our margin. In terms of the energy transition and our commitments as UNOC, we've done numerous studies to address environmental issues. The refinery will produce clean fuels. It will be the only region in Africa that produces Euro 5. We're currently importing 100% Euro 5 into this region. Even though our East African specs are a bit looser than the Euro 5 specs. In reality, that's what we import from the Middle East and as well as India. We're having a flexible refinery design. It'll enable us to convert to what we call the refinery of the future. So, for example, there's a significant amount of propylene contained in the LPG that we'll produce, roughly 300 tons a day of propylene that could be easily used to produce C3 petrochemicals. We know that market exists, and we will work to develop that. I talked earlier about the fertilizer opportunity, which is very important for our agricultural sector as well. We're going to reduce emissions from the transportation of fuels from not just the coast of Uganda, but in addition from the Middle East refineries and India to us. We've estimated in the order of about 100,000 metric tons per annum of CO2 emissions saved. All the ESIA studies conform to World Bank, IMF, as well as IFC standards. Of course, PAPs are treated fairly in Uganda, again, according to IFC standards. And we're working to support the energy transition, moving most Ugandans as far as possible from fuel wood and charcoal to LPG. We also have a tree planting campaign. We plan to plant roughly 40 million trees in alliance with a number of financial institutions, National Forestry Authority, Uganda Wildlife Authority in Uganda, to essentially make this refinery carbon neutral. In terms of our national content commitments, UNOC is 100% committed to maximizing national content on all our projects. Of course, we're guided by the regulations, but we would like to do better than the regulations. For the refinery projects, we'll be working with local firms. So far, local firms have done all the civil work studies, LIDAR surveys, geotechnical surveys. This is just in the FEED, the front-end engineering design. Also, for the ESIA, we've worked with a local consultant who are in JV with an international firm. And of course, all the RAP activities, resettlement action planning activities, are also being undertaken by local firms. With big emphasis on co-location and secondment arrangements, even though these were heavily impacted by COVID over the last couple of years. But we have been moving Ugandan staff of UNOC, PAU, as well as Ministry of Energy to Milan, Italy for those opportunities of learning and knowledge transfer. Generally, once a project is up and running, there's a number of areas. I think we've talked about that pretty much through the day. Goods and services, logistics, and I think we're also seeing local growth through partnerships. So there'll be also opportunities, I think, even for engineering companies at some point to participate. Of course, all the civil structural. There's a whole gamut of areas that we see significant work that can be done by local firms. So, of course, the project expectations are very high, or let's say oil and gas QHSE standards. We'll be working to emphasize partnerships for local capacity building, working on skilling and certification, ensuring that our local partners are ready for the market. So a few slides now on the Kabbalah Industrial Park. This land was acquired by Ministry of Energy, 29.57 square kilometers. For the farmers among you, that's around almost 3,000 hectares of land. It will be one of the largest industrial parks in the world. It's on a scale of Jurong Island in Singapore. That's also 3,000 hectares. And we intend to develop that into an oil and gas industrial park. You'll see running through the center of it is Uganda's second international airport. We visited that actually the day before yesterday, together with the Ministry of Finance, and that project is at 77% completion. So essentially the runway is ready, or is almost ready. We're now focusing on getting it functional, electrical works, lighting, navigation, control tower, and so on. But that project is key to supporting the development of the refinery as well as oil and gas in general. We all are aware that the crude oil export hub will also be located in the industrial park just south of the refinery. And for that, we know that, of course, the FEED is complete and EPC is underway. I talked a bit about the refinery earlier. The FEED is essentially complete. FEED is complete there. We're focusing on looking at a future with fertilizers and petrochemicals. It's likely that the fertilizer activities will coincide with the refinery commissioning. We're talking to industrial gas suppliers to bring in to produce significant quantities of nitrogen, CO2, O2, etc. Also to support agro-processing, so preservation as well as flash freezing. And the cold, so we're bringing the cold chain. We have a significant area that will be available for agro-processing, and then there'll be warehousing, logistics. The total rentable area will be in the order of about 10 million square meters, or about 10 square kilometers of land will be available for leasing. Let's see. I'm having a little problem here with the... It's frozen? IT? It doesn't go back. Or does it go back? Yeah. Thank you. So, current status of the industrial park. The KIP master plan was developed and approved by the National Physical Planning Board, part of Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. At the moment, we're at the RFP stage of acquisition of a JV partner, an international JV partner with extensive experience in managing complex industrial parks. We, as UNOC, we're constantly engaging with key infrastructure ministries, departments and agencies, Ministry of Works and Transport, the Uganda National Road Authority, UEDCL, Ministry of Water, Environment, and so on, because we're working to provide utilities and roads within the park, including, for example, providing construction access to pump station number 1 for ECOP. The land allocation guidelines have been approved by the UNOC board and include an element of land rental fees. Design of the UNOC site office is underway. We expect that design to be completed in June. We've been working with local firms. We've procured local firms for the design of phase 1 infrastructure, including roads, security fencing, water, wastewater, stormwater, power, so medium voltage and low voltage power, as well as the strategic or regional environmental social impact assessment. And currently we're working with Ministry of Finance to source additional funding for phase 1 infrastructure works. So that basically means you go from design into works. The macroeconomic benefits of the industrial park are very significant, even more significant than the refinery itself. But the two go together because, of course, the refinery is an anchor project. So we've internally calculated in the region of about $5 billion a year of addition to our national GDP. This would be on top of the 3.3 I mentioned earlier for the refinery, an additional $11.9 billion per annum to national capital formation, improving our balance of payments by an additional $850 million per annum, a huge fiscal impact, $1.2 billion of income to the Treasury, and creating in the region of about 35,000 job opportunities. So these are really very significant projects for Uganda in the midstream. This is essentially coming up to my last 2 slides, so 2 minutes is fine. Oh, I'm told 0 minutes. I'm supposed to be a secret. So we're executing the design of phase 1 roads, sourcing funding. There's a good possibility we'll get Danish export financing for the infrastructure within the project, complete the ESIA, update the master plan, acquire a JV partner, start allocating land to potential investors, making sure there's a provision for employing and training Ugandans and start generating income. And we're heavily promoting linkages between agro-based value addition investors and local farmer groups. So there's quite a big effort going on in that space as well. So in conclusion, UNOC is committed to promoting and maximizing national content in the refinery and KIP projects more generally in what we do. Of course, we recognize that national content participation requires joint effort by all stakeholders to prepare for participation in these very large, significant projects. Macroeconomic benefits for both these projects is crystal clear. High standards of quality, health, safety, and environmental awareness are key to participation in these projects. And we are also very committed to the energy transition and all initiatives to achieve basically a net zero to all UNOC's activities in the oil and gas space. Thank you very much.
All right, colleagues, I know it's been a packed morning, but I think you'll agree that this is a lot of key information. We're getting to the tail end of this session, so we have two more presentations. The first one's going to come from Mr. Pipeline himself, who's the General Manager of National Pipeline Company, JB Habumugisha. John has 23 years of experience in petroleum infrastructure development, including pipelines, storage facilities, policy formulation and implementation, international humanitarian operations with the UN, and other private sector downstream petroleum operations. He's a multi-skilled engineering and management professional who holds a master's degree with distinction in pipeline engineering from Newcastle University, United Kingdom, a master's degree in industrial engineering from the University of New South Wales, Australia, and a first-class bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Maguire University. In addition to various certificates, John is a member of the Professional Institute of Pipeline Engineers, the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers, and the Institution of Procurement Professionals of Uganda. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Pipeline to give us his speech. Thank you.
Maybe before I talk about pipelines, and thank you very much, my senior brother. This session was supposed to be attended by Martin Tiffen, who is the Managing Director of ECOP. And to my senior brother, there are a few changes. I am now the Deputy Managing Director of ECOP. Thank you, thank you. But before I tell you about pipelines, let me tell you a short story, half a minute, about amazing happenings, and you'll understand why. When I left my birthplace in Kisoro to go to Kabbalah in Senior 5, I had no idea where I was going. I had never been there. When I left Kabbalah coming to Kampala to study mechanical engineering, I didn't know where I was going, but I arrived. When I was put on a plane to go to Sydney, I had no idea where I was going, but I arrived. When I was put on another plane to go to Haiti, I had no clue where I was going. But I learned diversity in the United Nations. I worked with the whole world. When Kabagambe Kalisa put me on a plane to go to University of Newcastle, I had no idea where it was. But I'm here speaking about pipelines. These are amazing happenings. When I met our senior elder the one I call my friend, and he allows me to call him my friend, my father, all the titles. Eli, when I met you and you loved me as a father loves his own son, you had never met me. But you're my father. When I walked through the corridors of state houses in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Kenya, there I made sure I walked behind a man I trusted so much, Ernest Rubondo, because he had an idea where he was going. I didn't know. But there I was made to tell the truth that I knew, as a Munyakigezi would tell it. I knew that since Ernest was there, I am safe. Now, the unfolding mystery is that I stand here as a deputy managing director of a $5 billion project, the longest heated pipeline in the world. There I'm asking God, why do you trust me so much? But then this question was also asked by King David. When he looked around and looked at the universe, he looked at the heavens, and said, but God, who is man that you trust him so much? That you are so mindful of him, and you even make him just a little lower than angels. And so to the leadership of the Ministry of Energy, the leadership of UNOC, the leadership of PAU, the shareholders of ECOP, thank you for trusting me. I think you see something that I don't see in myself. Thank you very much. So let me tell you another, I'll make it short, about pipelines now. Now, when we had the FID on the 1st of Feb, and I really don't know what to do with this. Okay. The ECOP, you know it. There is ECOP, the pipeline, and there is ECOP, the company. And ECOP, you know, is East African Crude Oil Pipeline, traversing parts of Uganda and Tanzania, 1,443 kilometers, heated pipeline, a number of pump stations, heating stations because of the nature of the crude oil. The picture at the bottom shows you a bit about the flowability of our oil, basically to emphasize the fact that our oil must be heated. And we go all the way from Hoima up to Tanga, so that you know the ECOP we are talking about. This is a quick summary to show you that we are dealing with a complex project. You have the image of a pipe that is inside some kind of foam. Now, between the pipe and the foam, you see something bluish. That is a fusion bonded epoxy coating. Now, all those are specialized technologies. We are in the middle of a challenge to be solved, and that's why Martin is not here. We are looking for solutions to secure what we call a line pipe. We use the line pipe to build pipelines. So he's in the middle of leading us to solve that challenge. Once we secure the line pipe, we must protect it from corrosion, and that's the bit of the blue you're seeing, the fusion bonded epoxy. Now the foam is about maintaining the heat in the pipe. Once you heat a metal, it gets hot. You don't want to lose the heat, so you add the insulation. The next image shows you what it means to build a pipeline. You are going to have to trench up to about 2 meters, and you are going to weld these pipes, join them together, and lay a pipe, 1,443 kilometers. And then you arrive at Jongoliani in Tanga. You have to build a terminal, and for you to load into a vessel, you must build a jetty. Now, all these things sound simple, but each of them is very, very complex and demanding. So we have all the various entities we are working with. EPCM, Wole is here to talk to us about what that means. We have value works going on. Construction, we have CPP, EITS, Schneider, MLC, Bolloré, coating plant, ISWAF, already work is happening at the site, terminals, tanks, and jetty. So all these, each one is complex in its own right, and there's going to be a lot of subcontracting in each of these elements. We are working with the PAU to finalize what we call the Tier 1 or Level 1 contracts so that we can then go to the next level where subcontracting allows our companies to participate. The challenge with these projects is not only technology but also finance. It's a lot of money, and we also agree that we may not have the necessary experience, and so we allow foreign entities to come here, work with us to deliver this project, and we do our bit as local companies. I don't know if I've moved too fast. It's okay. Now, you can't build a pipeline without land, so we have to acquire land. And in Uganda, land belongs to the people. It's easier in Tanzania. When land belongs to the people, you have to get it properly. You have to follow international standards. So we went through resettlement planning processes. So as we speak, we are in the middle of paying the project-affected persons. We engage, we discuss, we agree, they open accounts, they require national IDs, and we ensure that whatever we are doing is in the interest of our people. This project has ensured that it pays a disturbance allowance, and where there are delays, we have committed to pay a 15% for each year of delay. This RAP was done 2 years ago, so 15% twice to ensure that our people are effectively compensated. That's Martin, mesmerized by a model of a house. This house, this is a model of the house we are building for project displaced by the people displaced by the project, and it's quite something. When you look at the people we are displacing, the kind of houses they have, and what they are going to get, those two things are not comparable. They are getting very, very high value, but the key issue is to ensure that international standards are at least met or exceeded. This is an image of what is going on. We have just completed the pre-construction surveys of the route, working with the CPP to ensure that if there are any snags along the route, we can identify them early. Normally, in pipeline construction, you meet slopes. A slope is for a linear structure. Then you have to define how to stabilize the structure. In case there is a landslide, you don't want the pipeline to go with the landslide. And of course, swamps, rocky areas, all of these are being assessed, and the alignment sheets are being updated. Community engagements, we are working very closely with the community leaders to ensure that whatever we're doing has social acceptance for the project, and the compensation is acceptable to the people. Opportunities are various. They have been mentioned. I don't need to repeat them. But generally, we know that the first thing we achieve with the ECOP is to connect our oil fields to the international market, and that makes us different. We also know that the issues of national and local content are the subject of this conference and to be discussed in detail. Goods and services, we know that some reserved goods and services are the special for our people here and in Tanzania, and that will be detailed discussed. Now, capacity development, technology transfer, there are many technologies coming here that are new to us, and we have very many young people that are eager to learn. Employment, definitely. Corporate social responsibility. Michael has talked about many things, including planting of trees. Infrastructure access. We are already opening access roads where they were not. Now, there are other benefits that normally we don't talk about. When we talk about ECOP, we call it an enabling infrastructure for us to reach the international market. But also, as you heard, the minister said we are exploring for more oil. Now, when you find oil and there is ECOP, it's very simple to develop that field because you just build what is called a tie-in, a short pipeline to join the main line. And that is very special. It makes even smaller fields economic. Then the enhanced access or development of Tanga Port, and that's something special. It's a story of many years. I'm sure our elder knows this more than I do, that this country yearns for alternative accesses. This country needs more. Yes, we have Mombasa, we have Dar es Salaam. It wouldn't hurt if we had an alternative in Tanga, and this is one of the things that ECOP is doing to this country. And then, of course, the auxiliary developments. Wherever this pipeline is going to pass, you are going to see a lot of development. Now, as I close, you all know that we have been dealing with a number of naysayers. And it's a challenge that we continue to face. Today we are working on a response to someone who has written in the New York Times. They have also asked Sinok to respond. Why is China putting money in ECOP? So we are working on this. So we continue to face these challenges. And like, I don't know if it's the minister who said it, we need positive voices. We need positive voices because this development will not come. It again reminds me of another story in the Bible. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem, they reached a point where they had to build with one arm, and the other arm was for defense to fight. But they built the wall. We will not need to hold guns to fight. We need to use information. We need to inform the world that we need this project, that Uganda needs this oil, that East Africa needs infrastructure. Even when we speak of the energy transition, we first need something to transition from. The whole world is using oil and gas. Why shouldn't we be allowed to progress so that we reach a point and then we can transition? So we are dealing with the various international and local challenges, and that's one of them I've mentioned. We have gone through COVID. The Russia-Ukraine challenge affected us on the supply of pipe, and that's why we are looking for solutions. And so I just thought I needed to pick this quote, that we need to work together to focus, and this is Socrates who said, the secret of change is to focus all of our energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Surely together with focus we shall emerge victorious. I thank you very much.
Now, to bring it all together, we're going to have Mr. Ernest Rubondo, who, as you've all heard, He's the godfather, father of oil and gas. He's been around for a while. He'll give us a regulatory update and also his thoughts on in-country value retention. Mr. Rubondo is the Executive Director and Secretary to the Board at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. He worked with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development for over 30 years and was Commissioner for the Petroleum Exploration and Production Department, PEPD, between 2008 and 2014. And he was Director of Petroleum between 2015 and 2016. He's been a member of the Ugandan government team that promotes the country's petroleum potential from day one. And he also negotiated heavily on the production sharing with the oil companies in the acreage in the Albertine Graben. Mr. Rubondo chaired the working group which coordinated in the formulation of a draft national oil and gas policy for Uganda, which was approved in 2008. And he was also a key participant in the formulation of the new petroleum laws, which were passed in 2013. Please join me in welcoming my brother here, Ernest Rubondo, to close it all out for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for that kind introduction. The chairman of the Private Sector Foundation and my friend, Dr. Eli Karuhanga, the chairman of the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, our host, my boss, the chairman of the board of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and the other members of the board who are here this afternoon, captains of industry, the national companies and the service providers. And I must say that it's extremely exciting to have our own Uganda National Oil Company being part of the industry this time. And I say that, please, round of applause here. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I say that about the Uganda National Oil Company because I remember when the country was making the national oil and gas policy, there was very strong advice that came from the IMF and the World Bank against Uganda having a national oil company. So it took a lot of courage for the government of Uganda to insist that it will have a national oil company in its policy and have it established. So whenever I'm sitting by their side, I feel a lot of excitement when I remember that history. I need to start this. I know it was jamming sometime. IT, am I there yet? I'm risking now because I'm touching all the buttons. Forward is the green. Maybe I'll just talk through it since I'm between you and lunch. I will need some help. I had a slide. The starting one was showing the relationship between the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and the Uganda National Oil Company. The objective of that slide was just to show the lane of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda and that our lane is to regulate and monitor the upstream and midstream subsectors of Uganda's oil and gas sector, but also ensure compliance of petroleum operations to legislation and the agreements. It's important that we bear this in mind because my presentation is going to be different from the one of my predecessors because they are the doers. The role of the authority is just to regulate. As I continue to wait for this, I just want to say that the Petroleum Authority of Uganda's vision is to be a leading petroleum regulatory agency, and we add on shyly in the world. And so if you see anything being done by a petroleum regulatory agency in the world that is not being done in Uganda, we welcome you very much to come to us and say, I was in this exotic country, I found this, they were doing this, I thought it was beautiful, I see no reason why you should not do it in here. We will welcome you most heartily. The mission is to regulate and monitor the petroleum sector in order to create lasting value for the Ugandan society, and you will agree that this mission is very much in line with the theme of this conference, the creation of lasting value for the Ugandan society. But in addition, as part of our mission, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda regulates with a view to contribute to Uganda being a sound investment destination. So our colleagues and partners here who do the investment, the authority has the duty to ensure that they are listened to and they are enabled to go forward. I don't know, the IT got tired or hungry before the people. I really need help. I would like to have my slides because it will take longer to talk through them. Now, the areas of regulation of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda include resource management. We need to regulate the petroleum resource in the country. The authority regulates the costs. Costs are very important because when production starts, the companies will have to recover their money. The authority regulates petroleum data management. Data is information and extremely important. The authority regulates health, safety, security, social and environment management. And the authority regulates national participation. 5 things. If the slides were on, you would see the 5. We are only talking about one of these aspects, and that is national content. But just to remind you that even the other 4 aspects of resource management, cost monitoring, data management, health and safety represent a lot of value. So it's extremely exciting for us at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda to see that the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum has organized a conference this size, so well organized, on one aspect of value out of the 5 that the Petroleum Authority regulates. It gives us confidence that what is available to the country is therefore going to be a lot and much, much more if we see this one particular aspect attracting so many people. I had also wanted to add my voice at the beginning, not just to thank the Chamber for organizing this conference, but just to reflect that audiences like this in the past, we only found them abroad. When they started coming to Uganda, now it's here. I have moved on, so I have to get to where I am. When they started coming to Uganda, they were organized by government. It's extremely exciting to see that the private sector now organizes this and it becomes so big. So a clap of hands for the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. It's extremely exciting. So those are the 5 areas of regulation that the Petroleum Authority undertakes, and you can see that national participation is the 5th, and it's one of the 5. And the other 4, I can tell you, do not represent less value than national content. So that's the responsibility that the authority has. The next one, I will not go through this, but this is a list of the legislation that the country has put in place to ensure that the oil and gas sector benefits this country. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda, the work we do, we don't do it out of our own volition. We are actually following that legislation, and we are extremely happy that that legislation is in place, because I had the opportunity to regulate before all that legislation that was in place. And I think we did very well, because the companies could have looked us in the eye at that time and said, so why are you asking me to do this? And the answer would have been very difficult to give. I probably would have just said that it's a good thing to do. But now it's much easier. I start by saying, regulation number this requires that this is done, and my life is much easier. The good thing is that the regulations are not hard on the companies, because they were done in consultation with the companies. So I must tell you that actually we have very good partners in the companies. We actually don't need to remind them. When they are sending the reports, they remind you the regulation under which that report falls. So we are enjoying a very cordial working relationship with the industry, and I would like to thank them for that. Is it showing? Mine is not moving. The other aspect is, as these things were presented, I keep looking behind here. Oh dear, so maybe I step back a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to go through this very quickly. I just need to remind the audience that we are living in very interesting times as a country, and especially our generation, because the oil and gas activities in the country stretch from exploration. There are areas where they are looking for oil where they haven't found oil yet in Uganda, but the hope is that they'll find it. We also have development and production, which Total and Sinopec have presented very well. That's oil that has been found, and they are now working to produce it. We are also having projects in aspects of how to commercialize the oil. Some of you may not understand this, but those of us who have been in this sector for a long time, I can tell you it's very exciting, because at one time, this country was only talking about exploration, and we're not sure whether that exploration would be successful yet. So when you're at a position where you have exploration going on, you have development of resources that have been found, and you're also working on these very large projects that have been explained of how to commercialize the oil and gas resources, you then see the magnitude of the opportunity. What is here is actually what we have on our hands as a country. 21 oil and gas discoveries in the country. The billions of oil that are in the country were announced by the minister. I will not.
Smart 24, driving business.
We go through life hustling, doing different jobs to make ends meet. No matter how strong you are, age will eventually catch up with you. Your hope of a comfortable retirement is saving for old age while you still have energy to work. Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, the regulator of all licensed retirement benefit schemes, UBRA, encourages you to choose from any of the licensed schemes and start saving, whether employed or self-employed, to avoid regret during your old age. For more information, call 0417-304-500. This message is brought to you by Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority.
Cut! Zizinga, wait. Yeah? Ka selfie.
Wow. Do you have the MyGo TV app? Oh, do you use star 206 hash? Labono. But life techina kunyumira. With the MyGo TV app, over star 206 hash, you can make payments, you can change package, you can fix errors, you can check your balance anytime, anywhere.
Download the MyGo TV app from Google Play Store or the App Store, or dial star 206 hash.
Ha! My phone!
Go TV Uganda. Love it.
Bulu magic is my joy. Ono bulu magic wange. Ayo Talaba kumabala atukuza nonyirira okirako enyange tayisa bubi fabriki kyonna kyekiri kigwa lwa bulu magic is my choice. Ono bulu magic ye wange. And the bulu magic is my choice. Hey, ono bulu magic ye wange.
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Have you run out of fuel but you don't have enough money? Do you want to pay for yaka or water but have insufficient funds? Or do you want to shop but you don't have enough money? Don't worry, get away with